Welcome to Sisters in Sobriety. Today, we are so excited to welcome Chef Whitney Aronoff to the show. She is a visionary in the world of supportive nutrition and high vibration living. She is the founder of Starseed Kitchen and the creator of High Vibration Foods, an organic spice line designed to infuse meals with both nourishment and intention. And she's also the host of High Vibration Living podcast, where she explores the intersection of food, well-being, spirituality, and conscious living. Welcome, Whitney.
Thank you. It's such a treat to connect with you.
I'm so happy you're here. So, can you share a little bit about your early upbringing and your relationship with food?
Yeah, I grew up in Laguna Beach, California, and I'm a native Californian, so my life was very much spent outside with the appreciation to real whole foods and picking citrus off the trees and very much old school California living. But I found when I was in high school, I started to have stomach aches all the time, every evening after dinner. And so that started my relationship with food, trying to figure out what was causing me to have a stomach ache. And those stomach pains continued while I was in college, and also trying to figure out the fluctuations in my weight, being that I no longer was as physically active as I was in high school. And I got so tired of my stomach pains. I went to a ton of different doctors in my early 20s to try to figure out the root cause, a concept that did not exist at that time. And every doctor I went to told me that I just needed to eat more fiber and I should really just, make more broccoli with my dinner. And broccoli has always been one of my favorite vegetables. And always has been on my dinner plate. So I knew these people didn't know what they were talking about and they could not help me. So I had to go on my own journey to figure out the root cause of these stomach pains and weight fluctuations and inflammation. And what I found was that I had to be my own doctor, that I had to understand what real food is and the foundation of basic nutrition for my body, for my blood type, for my heritage. I need to learn how to nourish myself. And then I needed to learn also how I was holding on to emotions, what my physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental body was going through. And through just my own work and myself and going back to school and educating myself and becoming a chef, I healed all my gut issues. I healed all of those stomach pains. I I I was able to cure myself of everything that I was struggling with in high school and college in my early 20s by myself without the help of any of these traditional Western doctors. Um, I had to be my own advocate. And so what I try to do is help people understand that food is the basic foundation. So we all need to learn to eat real whole foods again. And I look back in time and I see all the processed foods that I was eating that I didn't know was processed. And a doctor couldn't even tell me that because they were so ingrained in thinking that was real food. But then I also had to learn on my own that we hold a lot of emotions in. And sometimes that can be the root cause of our physical pain or our digestive issues, and that good health and well-being and discovering the root cause of different things you're going through, it's never one size fits all. And there's never going to be somebody out there that's going to fix it all for you. You have to be your own researcher, your own advocate, your own expertise on your physical being.
Did you start with when you started to heal? Did you start by cutting things out? Did you start by cutting out processed food? What was the beginning of this healing for your physical health?
Yeah, it actually was going to farmers markets. So that and pursuing what made me happy and joy. So I started going to farmers markets and buying whole food ingredients, just anything that interested me that popped out to me at the markets, and always buying fruit from there, realizing there was waxes and sprays on the fruit that I was buying at the grocery store. And also at the grocery store, you don't know how old that fruit is. A lot of it's being held, especially the apples, in silos, and that apple you're eating could actually be 2 years old. So going to the farmer's market, eating fresh fruit that's in season, so my body syncs to the season and my body syncs to the environment that I'm living in. And then it was relearning how to cook food. So what are the traditional methods? Steaming, blanching, roasting, slow cooking. It was simplifying. Dr. Joseph Michael Lovery, he's a great doctor and spiritual teacher. He has a saying that that is simplicity is divinity. So some of the healthiest meals that you can eat for your body aren't more complicated, they're just more simple. So simplifying everything, because then you can identify what doesn't work for you and what does work for you. But a big part of it is food preparation and understanding that your digestive system is your fireplace. And so if you're putting all this ice, these cold foods in your fireplace, your fire is never going to get started. And so it's re-understanding what health food is. Health food is actually traditional cooked food. So we need to be stoking the fire. We need to be eating soups and stews and slow cooked meats and broths. And there are so many benefits to blanching and steaming and roasting our vegetables because we're just very gently breaking down the cellular walls of those vegetables so we can better absorb the nutrients. That if your body isn't spending all this time focused on digesting this really dense food, it can send the energy to other parts of your body, like your brain, like your legs, and then you can go out and enjoy your life. But if you're, I think a lot of people have been sent the wrong direction when it comes to health food, and they think it's supposed to be raw and it's supposed to be a smoothie and it's supposed to be juiced and that's more nutrient dense, but that's really hard on the digestive system, and that's what's creating a lot of the inflammation that specifically women are experiencing in the gut.
So that was not a metaphor about putting cold things into the fire. You're literally talking about not eating cold/raw food. So you're not drinking a green juice in the mornings.
No, but if my body's craving that, like, that'll be a treat. So, maybe in the summertime, if I'm in an area where it's 90 degrees and it's hot and my body needs to be cooled or my body really needs extra fluids, we really need to hydrate the body, a green juice can be great. That's a great hydrator. You can do that. You can do, coconut water. You can do water with salt and lemon juice. Like, I consider cold foods treats, you know? But, like, I love a salad in the summer, but that's not year-round eating, especially in the wintertime, and I learned that when I went to culinary school in New York City. I went to the Natural Gourmet Institute, which was the first ever health supportive culinary school in this country. It was founded in 1970 by Dr. Anne-Marie Colbin, who was a student of Dr. Michio Kuchi, who founded what we know as Erewhon. So, it's really interesting if you look at health food and the health movement in the United States, everyone is actually connected. But it was at the Natural Gourmet Institute, and it was moving to New York City right at the beginning of March. I moved into my apartment in a snowstorm, and I couldn't understand why I was so cold every single day. I'm wearing wool, I have all my layers, but I'm freezing. I had this internal chill that I couldn't shake. But I was still eating like a California girl. I was making a smoothie for breakfast and I was having a salad for lunch, and it was the middle of winter. And if we are putting cold or room temperature foods in our body, we're internally staying cold. You have to adjust the way you eat for the season. And you have to start warming up your foods. Another great practice to consider, and this is I learned when I used to work in the corporate world, is to fully feel nourished every day, you need to have one hot meal a day. We all should be focused on making sure one meal is hot, breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And for those that are working really demanding jobs and they have to be in the office, that can be really hard. So you have to find a way to make sure one of those meals are hot, even if it's heating up some soup or bone broth at home and putting it in a thermos and taking it to work. Um, the only way to heat up the body and to support your health in the winter time or late fall or early spring is making sure our meals are warm. And I think a lot of us have gotten really comfortable with just the idea of grab and go food from the grocery store that's in the refrigerated section. You just add your sauce on top, you toss it up and you eat it. But a lot of our digestive issues are coming from these constant cold meals, which then spreads out into other issues regarding our health.
Was there a moment when you realized that food could support emotional, spiritual well-being and not just physical health?
Yes, I realized while I was in culinary school and after that food was just the foundation. And once you change how you eat, once you just start removing different processed foods that you used to have a taste for or an emotional connection to, they will stop, they will fall away. They will naturally fall away, but you will start to evolve as a person, and it's gonna be a little scary because you're gonna start to see the world in a different way, and you're gonna start to see the people around you in a different way. Your vision is gonna become more clear. You're gonna ask more questions. Your intuition's gonna come on board. And so I really noticed that as I improved the foods that I ate, that I could better hear myself and know who I am. And that gets a little bit scary because you realize you can't conform anymore. And then you start to have what many consider a spiritual awakening. And it's simply because all these layers that were built up around you from the processed food starts to fall away. Another thing that I realized in trying to balance cravings at this time that I was editing my diet and trying to eat more real, whole, traditional foods is a lot of people that are struggling with food cravings. It's not just an imbalance in the food that they're eating, it's an imbalance in your field, your auric field around you, right? So we're all walking around in this bubble that's 6 inches or more 6 feet around us. We can't see it, but you can definitely feel it when you walk into a room, when you know that people have been talking about you, or when you walk up to someone and you just really like their energy and you can't figure out why. It's their auric field. And that's
Mm.
why you can start to work with energy healers and you can reinvigorate the light in your body. You can heal and patch up the holes in your field. And then suddenly your cravings for fast food, for ice cream, for sugar, for alcohol, they will fall away because it's not vibrating with you anymore. And I know this sounds woo woo, but like I have experienced this and so many other people have that
Mm.
a lot of our imbalances with food and our health is not just food related, it's energy related. And we change our energy feel, and what we crave will change.
And then how do you define a high vibration food, for example?
So, high vibration food is real, whole, seasonal, fresh food. So, an apple in season with no wax on it. It's wintertime, collard greens, chard, citrus. High vibration food is fresh, seasonal food that's carrying a vibration. So, a great example that everyone can consider playing with is buy an apple from the grocery store. You don't know where it's from, how long ago it was picked, what else is on that apple, probably some sort of wax. And then go to the farmer's market and pick up an apple or any seasonal fruit. And you can eat the fruit at different times and figure out how it feels. So, what's really interesting is with highly fresh food, you get fuller faster. It's more nutritionally dense because it was just picked. And when you eat it, you get more energy from it and you feel fuller faster. Whereas food that was picked weeks ago, months ago, years ago, when you consume it, you tend to need more of it to feel full because it's a less of an energy transfer. And I've done this experiment on myself over the past 20 years. When I lived in Washington, D.C., I lived right across from the DuPont Circle Farmers Market. It's one of the best farmers markets in the US. And I went there every Sunday when I was in New York City at culinary school. I would go to the Union Square Market twice a week. But you can experiment yourself and see how you feel with different food and which one's giving you the biggest bang for the buck. And the biggest bang for the buck is the energy transfer. So if you're eating a meal and you need to take a nap afterwards, then that's not the food for you. That's not a vibrational match. That's low vibration food. If you're eating a meal and you're feeling great afterwards, and the next morning you're waking up with more energy, then you've now found food that is the vibrational match for you that's also carrying a higher vibration. So high vibration food is just fresh, seasonal, dense. It's not in a package. And that's really important. It's not chips. It's not gummy. It's not any processed food. The only thing that should be in a package should be your sea salt, your pepper, your organic spices, your rice, basic dried goods, your dried beans, but most of your food should be fresh.
And for example, people who don't necessarily have access to a farmer's market, what should we be avoiding at the grocery store? How do you feel about flash frozen food, those types of things? What are our options if we don't have access to a farmer's market?
So you need to find the grocery store that's carrying food that you're attracted to, right? Because we've all been in grocery stores that are kind of creepy and gross. Like when I lived in Washington, D.C., the closest grocery store to me was a really depressing Safeway where all the produce looked sad and limp. And, you know, we all have a visual of how that bad produce looks. So I would have to go out of my way and plan my schedule every week to get to the grocery stores that had fresher ingredients and higher quality ingredients. So sometimes we do have to change our schedule and go out of our way to get those ingredients. But they exist. Even when I lived in Texas, at the time I lived in Texas, in Dallas, we had horrible produce there, um, which is odd because if you think about transportation and where a lot of food grows in this country, it doesn't make sense why there's still so many places that have terrible produce. But I understand, I've seen it, it exists. So you need to figure out, first of all, what you like to eat, because I think people try to force themselves to eat things because they think it's quote unquote healthy. You need to figure out what you truly do like. Is it broccoli? Is it cauliflower? Is it carrots? Is it celery? Um, is it arugula? Simplify and then try to buy the best in your area. Because if you're trying to force yourself to eat vegetables because it's a vegetable, it's not going to bring you joy and you're not going to digest it well. But if you have to go with flash frozen, you have to go with flash frozen. I think the most important thing is that you just search out vegetables, proteins, fruit that doesn't have any other stuff on it, right? So avoiding anything that has sugar, a sauce, citric acid, MSG. Um, you want it to just to be its pure form.
How do you help people reconnect with their intuition around hunger and fullness and cravings, for example? What is the basis of those? And that even as it sometimes, relates to alcohol too.
So I think the most important thing, and this is really hard for all of us to do, is you need to get away from technology during your meal, and you need to either sit outside or look outside when you eat a meal. And what that does is it affects your nervous system. So when you don't have the tech around you, or you're at least sitting outside eating your lunch, your nervous system can calm down, your physical body can calm down, which then affects your digestive system. It will calm down. And then you are not in a place of fight or flight, which you might not even notice you're in. And then when you sit down and eat your meal, you can hear your personal cues. And we become numb. We can't feel or hear ourselves when there's so much other frequency noise around us, which is the tech, which is maybe a rude coworker or our boss or other people's energy fields, which are affecting us. So what I found, the first thing that I did when I was trying to improve my health, back when I worked as an HR manager and in the corporate world is I just simply left the office for my lunch. It was really hard. It's hard sometimes to step out of your office, even with different weather, but I would make a point to walk out of that building with my lunch. And I'd find different places in DC where I could go and sit inside on cold days, and I'd find different places where I could sit outside. And you can even set your timer if you're worried about getting back to the office in time. But just removing myself from the office to eat my meal helped me digest my food better. It calmed my nervous system. It helped me better start to hear my hunger cues, and I did naturally start to eat less. So at that time, I was really into getting my salads for lunch at Sweet Green and at Chopped. That's what I was really into at that time. But I started to notice I was eating less and less of the food that I was ordering because I was able to hear my body and hear those hunger cues. So change the environment.
Have you found that alcohol contributes to that noise, or does it change our hunger cues?
1,000%. And I've spoken to a lot of doctors and therapists about this. And again, you can always experiment on yourself. So alcohol is a sugar, right? And so when you drink alcohol, you then crave sugar the next day when your body's starting to detox from the alcohol. And what happens is for about 3 days, 72 hours after you consume alcohol, your body is craving the sugar to stay on the high. Whether you are consciously craving it or not, your body's craving the sugar. It wants to stay in that state that you put it in with the alcohol. And the best thing I found to shock the system out of the cravings was eating fresh vegetables and protein. So I found the best recovery was not eating greasy food, was not giving in to sugar temptations, but was eating food that was going to balance the body and the system and our blood. And that was vegetables and protein. So having a salad, having simple steamed vegetables, making yourself a curry or a soup or a stew or a healthy bowl of chili with really high quality proteins, and making sure veggies are involved, and you're adding something fresh like cilantro, parsley, dill, that will completely change the alkalinity of your body so you don't continue feeding the sugar cravings. But that's something that you have to be aware of. If you're going to go there and drink, then you're going to have a change in your blood sugar and you're going to have a change in cravings. And that's what caused me to stop drinking. Is I didn't like the loop that it was putting me in. I didn't like this 3-day slump in my life. I felt like life was more important to me than a glass of alcohol to try to be social and fit in. And if something was going to take away 3 days of how I felt, then it wasn't worth it.
A lot of our listeners report sugar cravings, especially when they are trying um, to abstain from alcohol. So, where does sugar fit in for you in your nutrition plan? Do you treat it like a cheat? Do you avoid it completely?
I call them treats. I don't like the word cheat, and you can't avoid completely because that's avoiding joy, right? And sweetness in food is sweetness in life. And we can't cut out joy. And what we all define as joy is going to be different. So if you love a little bit of sugar at the end of the day because it's bringing joy into your life and it's really like doing something for your heart or for your well-being, then you find the best quality version of it. So if you love chocolate, then you find an 85% that just is everything for you. And you read the ingredients and it's the highest quality. There's no soy lecithin in it. There's no citric acid. There's no MSG. There's no powders. You're choosing to put the highest quality version of that into you. So maybe you're looking for a chocolate that's from Ecuador or South America, where cacao always traditionally came from. because that's going to be super nutritionally dense and there's going to be magnesium and minerals in that chocolate. So, and you can change your mindset that you're not cheating, you're not being bad, you're not being naughty, that like you are eating this because you love it, it brings you joy, and it makes you feel good. You have to change your mindset with it. So if your thing is ice cream, then start making your own ice cream. That's what I do now. And I do that for all my personal chef clients. If my client's going to crave ice cream, well, then I want to give them the best ice cream on the planet.
Yeah.
So I buy organic raw milk, organic raw cream. I sweeten it with local honey, again, to sync them to their locale and their environment and give them the sweetness. But also, honey is nutritionally dense. And then I'm going to add vanilla, sea salt, and then any flavor profiles that they want to that ice cream. And, you pack it in individual containers and you put it in the freezer, and your ice cream machine only costs anywhere from $50 to $75, and you'll have it for years. And it's going to benefit you much more than buying a lot of the ice creams on the market these days, which there have been a lot of studies showing that there are ingredients that are being put in ice cream and ice cream sandwiches that aren't real food, that are causing it not to melt when it sits out in the sun. There's weird things happening to our food system. And we can all start to research that in our own time. And the best way to avoid these experiments that are happening into our food system is making our own foods from scratch. I When I was struggling with food cravings, I went to a therapist, and she taught me that if you're craving a chocolate chip cookie, you go out and buy the best chocolate chip cookie you can find in your neighborhood if you don't feel like making it. Just buy the best quality from scratch one that you can, and you sit and you eat it and you enjoy it. And you do not beat yourself up about it. And if you approach eating your treats in a more positive way, you'll enjoy it more. You'll need less. You can just eat one cookie, not 7. When you're eating a cookie that has real ingredients and it's made with real butter, it's made with organic flour, higher quality chocolate chips, you don't need to eat 7 of them because that one cookie is more nutrient dense. It doesn't have any of the fake ingredients in it. And so you can get full from it. But then when you change your mindset, you also will ultimately find you just don't need it as much. It's not as big of a dopamine hit.
How can you tell, or is there a difference between a craving that's physical or emotional, spiritual?
Yes, and there's a lot of books out there that you can find that will, and now we have Google and ChatGPT. So when you are craving something, you can type up and look while you're craving that. And it usually lets you know that what you're craving is really healthy fats. And that if you look back at your diet for the past day or two, you may realize, wow, I haven't put olive oil, butter, ghee, avocado, any of these brain foods in any of my meals. No wonder I'm craving that, because my body's craving brain food. It's craving nutritional density. You can definitely look up why you're having that craving. A lot of times people will have a craving for red meat. Women will have a craving for red meat and chocolate the week before they get their period, because those are filled with iron. Sometimes you'll have craving for foods that are blood builders, because your body knows it's about to lose a lot of blood, so it's going to want you to eat beets, goji berries, teas that are blood builders, so your body can start to replenish itself. And so when you start to have these cravings, think, what a blessing that I'm able to pick up on this, Google it, figure it out, and then find the best version to nourish that craving for you. Quality over quantity.
And what staples do you recommend that everyone keep in their kitchen for supportive nutrition?
Absolutely. So I love different types of sea salt, always real sea salt. If it says iodized on it, walk away. And like with all food, with sea salt, you need to turn the package over and read the ingredients. If there's anything other than salt, do not purchase it. And that's the time that we're living in. Like, you can buy a package of Morton salt and there'll be 5 other ingredients listed with that.
What?
Yeah, don't connect to brands. Brand connection is over. Yeah, there'll be MSG, citric acid, anti-caking agents. Your body can't absorb iodine through salt. That study has been proven, but that salt is still on the market. The only way you can absorb iodine is through seafood and seaweed. So you can buy seaweed and sprinkle it into soups and stews as if it's a bay leaf and get your iodine in there that way. That's a very traditional way people cook in Asia. They just put in seaweed, and it's doing the same thing as a bay leaf. It's providing um, di- digestion support, but also the added benefit is the iodine. I have a flaked sea salt that's a mix of seaweed and sea salt that I sprinkle on top of my eggs in the morning. But I like having a variety of different salts. They bring out different flavors in food because there's different mineral balances within different salts. So salt, pepper, organic spices, turmeric, ginger, garlic. Those are things that I always have in my pantry and on the shelf. I'm a big fan of always having rice, quinoa, and any particular ancient grains that work with your body or your ancestry. You should always have those in the house and make them properly from scratch, whether it's washing it in a sieve, soaking it overnight, but doing proper preparation. I love keeping some beans or lentils in the house. And then, good quality olive oil. The important thing there is just always looking for olive oil that is in a glass jar and is single origin. So again, you turn it around on the back and you make sure that olive oil is only from one place. If it mentions that it's from 2 or 3 locations, you pass on that olive oil. And the only place you should be super mindful of is Italy. Italy is notoriously known for shipping in olive oil from all over the world and then packaging it into bottles and then just claiming that it's all from Italy. So I only like to use Italian olive oil if I'm buying it when I'm in Italy, because it just doesn't have a good reputation for being authentic 100% single origin olive oil. Majority of the olive oil comes from Spain and Tunisia. So those are always safe choices. But again, don't force yourself to use things or eat things that you don't enjoy. So you find an olive oil that you enjoy the taste and flavor and the look and the feel, and it's right for you. I'm also a big fan of always having butter and ghee in the house. Again, healthy fats, and then coconut oil as well. And then you rotate your fruits and your vegetables and your proteins with what you're craving and how you feel and what's available in your area and what's seasonal.
And so you've cooked for lots of people and families. And how do you adapt those high vibration principles to people with different food beliefs? Or, for example, like you've mentioned ancestry a couple of times, like I'm Indian,
Yeah.
my boyfriend's Italian, I'm also vegetarian. And so, are you able to adapt these sort of high vibration principles for people with different food beliefs?
Absolutely. You always meet people where they are. And you never force your belief systems onto other people. You just show up as you are and you radiate as the person that you are. And how your client is supposed to evolve will naturally happen just with your presence. There's another saying that I love, that your presence has power. And so sometimes we're supposed to just, if we have certain philosophies about food or health or well being, just radiate that philosophy. And if that becomes of interest to the people you're around, they'll ask the question, right?
Mm.
In the movie Harry Met Sally, I'll have what she's having, right? And that's what I have found has always happened with my clients. My clients will tell me what they want. My job is to use the best ingredients possible and make their meal the way that they asked for. And they slowly just always come around and ask if I can upgrade this recipe. I can upgrade these ingredients. What have I been eating recently? Well, we want to try that. So I always just meet people where they are. Um, And I always find that when I start with a client, they can tell me all the things that they don't want, and it changes over time in a good, positive way.
And so, what advice do you give people who fall into that sort of perfectionism around food? And we just actually talked to somebody this week. We talked about the perfectionism around wellness habits. And so, how do you feel about the perfectionism around food?
There's something else going on. It has nothing to
Mm,
do with food. It has nothing to do with well-being. There's something going on with them emotionally, and they need
mhm,
to find the right support for their nervous system. So they either need to
mm,
start doing more nature walks without their phone, more hiking, more beach walks, acupuncture, massage, lymphatic drainage. Um, they need a talk therapist or they need a hands-on energy healer. Um, they need more functional movement. They need to do something with their fascia. Like, it's something else that's going on that's out of balance. And the way they're coping with the imbalance in their life is through control of food
mm.
or certain habits. And if you're having to control everything, you're making up for where you are feeling out of control in your life.
And what is one common mistake people make when they're trying to eat clean? Do you notice?
I think they tend to go raw salad.
Yeah.
They go to these pre-prepared foods at Erewhon, Trader Joe's,
Mhm.
Mother's Market, Whole Foods, and they think they're eating clean, but they're not actually reading the fine print in what they're picking up and purchasing. And the healthiest meal you can eat will always be the one you make at home. It is not out there. You are not gonna get skinnier, prettier, healthier, have better weight management, have better digestion. Everything's not gonna fall into place because you make more money so you can buy this particular meal plan, meal system, dinners from these places. When you can learn to cook for yourself and nourish yourself at home with ease, that's what's gonna make it all come together.
I think it's the ease part. So how can people learn, or what are some ways we can cook with intention rather than obligation? Because I know there's days where it'll be like 6 o'clock and I'm like, I really want to make something good and healthy for myself, but like there is a frozen pizza in the freezer. It seems so much easier than chopping and especially with lentils, like soaking and putting them on the stove for an hour. So, what are some ways we can make that easier so we are really focusing on the intention and not on the obligation?
So I always plan ahead. So I'm always planning
Ah,
in 3-day periods of time.
okay.
So that's how I approach it. Sunday, Wednesday, Friday tends to be how I'm thinking of when I'm gonna need to really cook. So, for instance, yesterday, finally had the time, and I already had all the ingredients, and I made a big fish curry.
Mm,
I use all the veggies that are in my fridge. I tend to always have ginger and garlic in the house and curry powder. And then I have tons of bone broth that I keep in the freezer, so I just defrost that earlier in the day. I always have stacks of good quality coconut milk because whenever I'm at the store, there's one particular coconut milk that has no Gruyere gum. It's more expensive, and you watch it, it always goes on sale at Whole Foods. So, like, I'm never paying full price for my pantry staples. I'm always watching when my special, highest quality coconut milk goes on sale. I'm stacking up on it, so then it's always there. So, like, my pantry's filled with higher quality ingredients, so when I know I'm gonna have the energy and extra time, I can make that big batch of fish curry. I can make that bison chili. I can make that slow cook super stew, which I can have for dinner 2 nights in a row or 3 nights in a
yeah.
and then at the same time, I'm either baking chicken breast or grilling it or doing steaks and taking care of some veggies, and so I know I'm having that in the fridge to kinda substitute in, and then I always make sure I have plenty of eggs. I always make sure I roast some sort of sweet potato. So purple, um, Japanese, orange, I always make sure I have arugula or a fresh green from the farmer's market in the fridge. My fridge is built out in a way that I'm set up for success. So nothing, I'm never 1,000% cooking from scratch, is I'm pulling from my arsenal, so to say.
Yeah, and are there any shortcuts that we can use that are not ultra processed, for example? Like, even with curries, like, can we use, a tablespoon of, like, the Thai curry paste, or are you making everything really from scratch?
You can totally use a Thai curry paste. Same thing is you need to look at the ingredient list because there's some great
Okay.
Thai curry paste on the market in glass jars that are really excellent ingredients. For me, my curry, which I believe is on my website, starseedkitchen.com. It's just garlic and ginger, curry powder, cumin, coriander. I like using bone broth because my body needs that worked in. I only do 1 can of coconut milk, and like I mentioned, like, I identified a brand that has no Gruyere gum that I really like, that I think is the cleanest available, and I just watch when it goes on sale, and I stock up on it, and then I throw in any other veggies I have available, and then I like to buy at Whole Foods the cod that's in individual, packages that's frozen. So then that way, anytime I need to do a curry, I just pull out that cod, I open it out of the plastic, I put it on a plate, it defrosts really quickly, and I add that in as my fish curry. That's, like, how I kind of work the system. Um, but and then maybe I'll have, like, frozen peas in the fridge just in
Yep.
case. I don't have much frozen. My frozen is really, like, the bone broth, peas, fish, sometimes proteins that I keep in there, because if you're buying directly from farms or at the farmer's market or even at the grocery store, there's a lot of frozen these days.
Those are real shortcuts. I like those, yeah.
And then with the bone broth, this is really important, you have it in all different size containers. So
Okay.
that way you're pulling it out and it can defrost quickly, but it's defrosting in the amount that you actually need. A lot of people also like to pour it into ice cube trays and then put it in plastic bags so you can add it in and it melts easier. But um those are the staples that I always keep in my freezer. And then I do have a pressure cooker that I use for rice. I still wash my rice, but I will cook my rice in the pressure cooker. Just, I never thought I was gonna be that person. I always made rice traditionally on the stove, but I've really fallen for the pressure cooker for the rice and just getting another item off the stove and not having to regulate the heat so I can focus my attention on the main dish, and that's made life a lot easier too.
There are rice you can recommend?
Oh, you know what? There
'Cause
is. A particular client of mine turned me onto it. It's a Himalayan rice. It's a white rice that has been fermented the traditional way that they used to. It's an Indian company. It is outstanding. They limit the amount that you can order because it's become so popular. Let me see if I can find the name. It is an out
for people.
it is an outstanding it's an Ayurvedic company. Um, and they dry and naturally ferment the rice for 2 years, and it comes out
Wow.
beautiful and fluffy and light, and you feel good when you eat it. And that is the number one trick to high vibration foods is if you don't feel good after you eat it, it's not for you, or it wasn't prepared right. So you try it,
Yeah.
and if you've eaten it 3 times and don't feel good after the 3 times you've eaten it, then it's just not for you, let it go and move on.
So you don't believe in, for example, the diets that limit carbs or limit rice in that way?
That doesn't work for my body.
Ah, okay, okay, okay.
I
No, I mean, I
honor
never.
I honor the people who say, "Hey, I turned 40 and I can no longer eat rice. It wasn't working for me. It caused me to gain weight and swell." But I also don't
Mhm,
where were they getting their rice from? What was
mhm.
their rice? Were they washing it? Were they soaking it? How were they cooking it? Did they try cooking it traditionally or did they try pressure cooking it? Because when you pressure cook it, it tends to help people who are having digestive problems digest it better. there's so many nuances, right? There's so many nuances. So, um, if it doesn't work one way, try a few other ways. And if it's still not working, then let it go for a while. It may just not be right for you at this time. But if you love a certain food like rice, uh,
Yeah.
look at different qualities of rice. Don't always buy it from the same place. Change your preparation process, how you wash it or soaking it overnight, and then how you cook it, what pan you're cooking it in or pressure cooking it. And, I definitely don't eat as much carbohydrate as I used to, but
Mhm.
I don't function without it. Like,
Mhm.
if I don't have a carbohydrate, my energy drops. So I tend to always have a small Yukon Gold potato with eggs for breakfast in a little skillet. So that's my hot meal. I always make sure I get in for breakfast. And then otherwise, it's a little sweet potato with my eggs. And then I will sprinkle in rice or quinoa or other squashes, root vegetables, seasonal plant-based carbohydrates, depending on what's, you know, currently growing on local farms around me. I'll sprinkle that in as I feel like I need it.
That's amazing. So what other projects are you working on that you're excited about right now?
So I'm going to be working on creating more farm to table dinner opportunities with people. I want more people to be able to find like-minded people in person. Get out, enjoy healthy seasonal food in community. And you don't need to know the person in order to go to that dinner table, but it's a great way just to meet more like-minded people and realize that you aren't alone and that there's other people that have similar interests that you have in your community. So that's what I'm focused on this year. I'm focused on learning more about organic regenerative agriculture and being a better shopper of groceries and a better shopper at farmers markets and just looking at different ways that I can upgrade the food that I'm bringing into my house. You never know it all. There's always so much to learn. And so I'm really interested in learning more about that and seeing what else that I can just upgrade the quality that I'm purchasing and see if it makes me feel better, and then see how it supports the local community farms and, the financial space around me. So just, oddly enough, buying more local ingredients, which can be hard to do because it can be more expensive. But maybe if you're more mindful with your choices, it will kind of all work out in the end.
Yeah, I think we don't realize how those choices kind of trickle down. So thank you
Yeah, so
for bringing that
those
up.
are my goals for the year ahead, and then the third thing is really just more joy. So just looking at the places where and the activities that make me happy and leaning more into that and lessen the obligation of thinking I need to do things to be nice or, you know, those normal slumps that we fall into. It's just really identifying the things that bring me joy and leaning more into that.
Love that. Whitney, thank you so much for being with us. I learned so much. I'm gonna get
Good.
on yeah, I'm gonna get on online and Google a bunch of the stuff that you told us and start doing some ordering for my pantry.
Good.
Thank you.
Such a pleasure. Thank you for connecting.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening to Sisters in Sobriety, and we will see you next week.